Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to Sea Power, Naval Combat in the Missile Age. So, a number of you have been asking, are there any scenarios in this game other than those that involve NATO and the Warsaw Pact? And yeah, there are. Not a lot, but there are some. There's one here, the Battle of Latakia, that I've never bothered playing because, well, it just doesn't have a mission description, so I have absolutely no idea what it involves. So let's just dive in and find out. Okay, well this is clearly not going to be a major surface action. That looks like an Israeli Navy Syar class missile boat or fast attack craft. So these things are armed, well, depending on the version, and it looks like we have multiple versions of the same class of ship, but they're armed with either 20 or 40mm guns. More importantly, they all carry multiple Gabriel surface-to-surface missiles, and it looks like we're attacking Syria. So this is, well, I had to go and look it up. The Battle of Latakia was a fairly important naval engagement during the Yom Kippur War. The Israelis had a force of 5 of these Syar missile boats, different versions. All of them equipped with Gabriel surface-to-surface missiles, which were developed by the Israelis. They were one of the first sea-skimming SSMs ever developed. And this battle between Israel and Syria, which I think happened in 1976 during the Yom Kippur War, was important for 2 reasons. It was the first naval engagement in history that was fought between 2 sides armed with surface-to-surface missiles. And it was also the first naval battle in history that featured extensive use of electronic countermeasures, jamming. We've picked up, using electronic surveillance, there's a land-based radar station right there in the city of Latakia in Syria, and it's pretty close, so there's an excellent chance that they already know we're coming. Now the thing about the Syar class missile boats is that defensively, on paper, well, they basically have nothing. They don't have any surface-to-air missiles. They've got what are effectively close-in weapon systems, but we're not talking about, 20mm phalanx or anything. The 20mm autocannon and the 40mm autocannon are technically close-in weapon systems. They're just, they're no phalanx. They have chaff, but no surface-to-air missiles to defend themselves against incoming SSMs. But what they do have are electronic countermeasures, listed in this game as offensive ECM. They have radar jammers, which can be used, providing you're within range, against land and ship-based radars, and also the active radar seekers of incoming missiles. So while having surface-to-air missiles would be preferable, they don't have them. Their defences consist of chaff, guns, and electronic countermeasures. Offensively, well, the Gabriel, in this case the Gabriel 2, it wasn't a bad missile system. I mean, this was 1976. And the Gabriel entered service with the Israeli Navy in 1970, so, it's not going to be an amazingly advanced weapon system. But it was very capable for the time, and its only real limitation was the relatively small size of its warhead. It only carried a 100kg explosive charge, which is 220 pounds. More than good enough for dealing with fast attack craft and other missile boats. The kind of opposition that we can expect to face here from Syria, at least historically, would have been Osa and Komar class missile boats, which would have been armed with the SSM-2 Styx surface-to-surface missile, which carried a much bigger warhead. A single hit from a Styx would be enough to turn one of these things into matchwood. Now, since the scenario begins so close to the city, we've almost certainly been detected by their radar, so I'm going to break MCON and I'm going to turn my own air and surface search radars on. And we've already picked up a bunch of radar returns. So I'll just finish setting my sensor orders. And we're going to take a look at this. And it's coming right at us and it's doing 38 knots. It's probably not a passenger ferry. I'm pretty happy to classify that as hostile, but let's just take a look and see what information we hold on it, and all we really have is the radar return. And it could be a trawler, but there ain't no trawlers doing 38 knots. That's a military vessel, which means it's hostile. There is another contact slightly further behind it, and it's only doing 13 knots, and that could be a trawler or a merchant, or I don't know enough about it to be able to classify that yet. But this thing definitely about to get the good news. So I'm going to salvo fire, well actually just the one. Normally, just to make sure, you probably want to salvo fire two, but I have offensive countermeasures. I can jam their radar. They'll know that they're being jammed, and they will probably know that that means they can expect the good news to be heading in their direction, but knowing that it's coming and being able to do something about it, two entirely different things. If they can't see it, they can't shoot it down, and the best they can do is deploy chaff and hope it misses. I mean, they will eventually see it, by which I mean with the old Mark 1 eyeball, depending on how good their radar is and how powerful my jamming is. But either way, this is going to reduce their chances of being able to get any kind of intercept off. A couple of other targets in closer to the harbour, but they're stationary, so they're probably merchantmen at anchor. Probably, don't know for sure, I'm going to find out sooner or later. There are a couple of other contacts slightly to the north of the port, heading in the northern direction, but they're only doing 4 knots, so they're almost certainly fishing boats or dhows, or, well, not a threat. This thing, though, definitely. He's pretty close, and if he'd launched any missiles in return, well, he's not launching any missiles now, that was definitely a missile boat. But if he had launched any missiles in return, I would have picked them up by now. But because I was jamming his radar, he was unable to, well, not necessarily unable to detect us, but certainly unable to get a fire control solution. However, somebody has. Somebody down to the southeast is launching SSN-2s. And I've detected the missiles, but, well, whoever launched them, I haven't detected them. I can jam these missiles as well, though. So, I mean, I'm doing all that I can. They're going to launch chaff of their own initiative. Just in case, I'm going to set everybody to air defense weapons free. I mean, I shouldn't need to. Weapons tight, they should automatically defend themselves against incoming missiles. But it doesn't hurt to set an offensive posture. Right, let's see how the defense is going. So we're jamming the Styx does have an active radar seeker in the terminal phase. Later versions also had an infrared seeker, but I'm pretty sure in 1976 they didn't. Oh, hello. Who are you? Our ESM systems have picked up somebody's surface search radar. But it's just navigation radar, and they're not going that fast, only 16 knots, but they're on a very, very suspicious bearing, and they are heading right at us. I'm pretty sure that that is... Well, there could just be one missile boat down there. One OSA could have launched all of these SSN-2s. Oh, they're getting awfully close. Alright, that one's been spoofed by the chaff. It looks like the electronic countermeasures are working. I mean, they're getting close. They're basically flying right over the top of our force. But they've all either been decoyed or jammed. I suspect that whoever launched that isn't alone, because OSAs rarely operate alone, which means we can probably expect more missiles to be on the way. Now, my force is split into 2 columns, one of 3 and one of 2. I'm going to let the northern column continue on its way into the city, and I'm going to divert the southern column down to investigate. Yep, sure enough, more missiles. So there's definitely more than one missile boat down there, because that's more SSN-2s than one missile boat can carry. And of course, their missiles massively outrange mine. Well, not massively, but enough that they can comfortably engage me, and I have to close in to be able to return fire with the Gabriels. So at the moment, this is basically electronic warfare, because the chances of being able to intercept SSN, well, intercept anything with a 76 or a 40 or a 20mm gun is fairly remote. And there's more missiles incoming from the direction of the city. I don't think they have land-based missile launchers. I mean, they might. Those could be Silkworms, the land-based version of the Styx. Oh, we've actually intercepted one. Somebody actually scored a hit with, wow, with a 20 or 40mm gun. Oh well, it's the first time for everything. The rest of the incoming SSN-2s, however, the electronic countermeasures do appear to be holding up. They're either being jammed or decoyed. Of course, with an SSN-2 against the missile boat, the missile only needs to get lucky once. Although luck does appear to be on our side, at least so far. There's one more incoming. And we're going to get away with it. It kind of looks like we are. Oh yeah, it splashed down somewhere over there on the other side. Yeah. Well, there's more on the way. And that one's been decoyed by the chaff. More coming in from the southeast. Oh, ooh, that one fell just short. But there's still more coming in from the southeast. I need to switch the jammers, because they were still tracking the ones that flew overhead and passed by, so I need to switch the jammers to the direction of the threat. I have to do the same up here. No, they're already covering that threat axis. We're all good. That's a lot of missiles. But so far, none of them have actually hit. Still got the jammers pointing in the correct direction. I guess you just have to cross your fingers and hope for the best. Oh, that sounded like another near miss. The threat from the southeast appears to have been exhausted. I think that they've probably fired all the missiles they have. Probably. Certainly hope so. Still more coming in from the direction of the city. But so far it's good. These ones look like they're passing overhead. Oh, there's one bypassed the lead ship in the northern column and it's heading for the tail end Charlie. I mean, we're jamming it, and we're attempting. There's chaff out. No. Right, we've lost one ship, and it looks like there's a further missile going for the same ship. Yeah. Okay. That actually wasn't too bad. I mean, I lost track of the number of SSN2s that got fired at the force, and all bar one got successfully shot down, spoofed, or decoyed. That's actually not bad. If we hadn't had the electronic countermeasures, the jammers, that would have been a lot worse. Guarantee you that. Only losing one ship? That's actually not too bad. And now, of course, it's our turn, because they're out of missiles. During the actual battle, the Israelis didn't take a single hit. They didn't lose a single ship. But the actual battle played out differently, because it wasn't just missile boats. They were also accompanied by a bunch of attack helicopters, and they used the attack helicopters as decoys. They sent the missile boats in one direction, and sent the helicopters off in another, and then the helicopters climbed to altitude in order to be detected by the Syrian radar, and then pop chaff, so that to Syrian radar it looked like there was a bigger force of contacts out there than there actually were. So the Syrians vectored their missile boats to attack these radar contacts, and right at the extreme limit of their SSN2s they launched, and then the radar contacts all disappeared because there was basically nothing there. So they'd blasted off all of their missiles that made them easy pickings for the Israeli missile boats, who then closed into the port, and there were a couple of other Syrian missile boats actually tied up alongside on the jetty, and they attempted to fire their missiles from the dock itself, which didn't work. Although they did hit some targets. Unfortunately, they were Greek and Japanese merchantmen who were at anchor in the bay. Both were hitting the engine rooms. No actual hits were scored on any Israeli vessels. And as a result of this battle, the Syrian Navy were effectively either sunk or bottled up in port for the rest of the war. So this isn't playing out the way that it did in history. I did lose a ship, but now it's my turn. Gabriel's away, and OSAs don't have electronic countermeasures. Well, technically they do. Chaff is an electronic countermeasure, but that's basically all they have. They've got guns, they don't have surface-to-air missiles, and they definitely don't have jamming systems. They don't actually have any electronic warfare systems. So I'm reasonably confident that even though these Gabriels don't have a huge warhead, only 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, I'm pretty confident of their chances of getting through and scoring hits. I'm not confident that they're going to blow these missile boats out of the water the same way that their SSN2 Styxers could do to mine. They will almost certainly be disabled. They might be destroyed by a single hit, but again, it's only a 100 kilogram warhead. A single hit will almost certainly take them out of the action, but it's probably not going to neutralise them instantly. It's only a 100 kilogram warhead. It's going to set fires, it's going to cause a flood, it's going to knock systems out, because, you know, a missile boat isn't a large target, but it's not a large warhead. So I may need to follow up with subsequent strikes. I certainly don't want to close to within gun range, because their guns are probably still going to work even if they are on fire. And why give them the opportunity to shoot back? Yeah, that's a hit. And it's a kill. Ah, it was unexpected. Well, I set the southern column to weapons free, so now they're basically engaging anything identified as hostile with anything that has the range to hit them. Which is more or less what I wanted to do anyway, because there's still another 2 contacts who are only just now coming to within missile launch range. And it's fine, I've got plenty of Gabriels. Each one of these things carries 7 or 8. And it's probably only going to take 1. I'm also jamming their radar, so once again, they know they're being jammed, so they probably know, especially given what just happened to the lead ship in the element, that there are missiles on the way, but that doesn't mean they can do anything about it. Oh, the land-based radar just turned on again. Okay, I'm going to jam that as well, because that might be targeting me for land-based missile batteries. Something definitely launched missiles at me from the direction of the city. Don't know what it was. There could be other missile boats out there. It could be a land battery. But either way, it's getting jammed. That's a lot of Gabriels. This is what happens when you... Oh, and there's a hit. But it didn't knock it out. But this is what happens when you set weapons free. They'll just keep launching missiles at anything that's been ID'd as hostile and is within missile launch range. Sometimes it can be better to maintain weapons tight. Oh, there's another hit. It knocked something out. And that one's taken 2 hits, and it hasn't been sunk. I mean, it's almost certainly out of the fight, and it is going to sink. There's another Gabriel, the second one going for the target in the distance over there that's already been sunk, and has just taken another one. And because I've set weapons free, they're continuing to launch missiles against the one. Well, I don't want to call it a survivor because it's almost certainly sinking, but it might be a good idea to set weapons tight so they don't keep launching missiles at targets that are going to sink on their own accord. Oh, track 7002 up to the northeast has just been identified as hostile. It must have just turned its radars on. Let's have a look. Yep, we've detected and classified its radar. So it's just basically classified itself as hostile for us. Now, the northern column, which did consist of 3 ships, but one of them has been sunk, is still set to weapons tight. So I'm going to salvo fire a pair of Gabriels at that contact. I still don't know what it is. It could be an Osa, it could be a Komar. Either way, it's a bad guy, and it's about to get the good news. Meanwhile, the southern column, with 2 missiles on the way to engage a target that is now basically incapable of defending itself and has already been hit by 2 missiles, I think we can safely assume it is not going to survive, and we can turn these guys around. Start jamming track 7002. Why hasn't the northern column fired its missiles yet? Engaging, idle. Still got plenty of missiles. Why is it idle? Somebody shoot that thing. I mean, I could probably just set them weapons free, but I want to know. There we go. Engage. Oh, okay, so we... Oh shit, he's just taken a 3rd Gabriel and he still hasn't sunk. Well, he's not going to survive 4. I mean, he's not going to survive 1, he's eventually going to sink, but... Yeah. He's still not sunk. Oh wait, no, now he has. It took 4 missiles to put that guy out of the action definitively. I guess the Russians built them tough. Right, so why is nobody engaging this contact? And also, what's going on with this guy? He's only doing 8 knots. Oh wait, there's 2 of them now. Radar's just picked up a second contact right next to the other one. Also doing 8 knots. Well, I don't want to classify them as hostile because they could be neutral. Meanwhile, Tail End Charlie here is now engaging track 7002, who is heading away from us and is being jammed and has definitely not launched any missiles of his own. Although he might not have any missiles left. I mean, he could have been the one that launched the missiles that came from the direction of the city, because they came from along that bearing. Either way, there are no further enemy missiles in the air. And that bulldog is going to hit him within a couple of seconds. Let's switch to the missiles perspective. Maybe get some kind of idea of exactly what it is we're closing in on. I mean, if this sinks it, we should get to see what it was. And it's a hit, but it didn't sink it. So we're still in the dark as to exactly what it is. But it's almost certainly crippled and out of the fight. Land-based radar is still on. These guys are only doing 4 knots, so they're probably merchantmen or fishing boats. These are stationary, so they're almost certainly ships at anchor in the bay. These things only doing 8 knots. That's now just slowed down to 4 knots, so it is crippled. It's almost certainly sinking on its own now. And if it did have any missiles left, it's also almost... I mean, it probably doesn't, because that's... I'm fairly sure that was the source of the missiles that came to us from the northeast. But if it wasn't, it's probably not capable of firing them anymore. I could close in and finish it off with guns, but that would give it the opportunity to shoot back with its own guns, and, well, why get into a fair fight? It's not like I'm short missiles, so we're gonna expend another Gabriel. I mean, hopefully that should be enough to finish it, although one of the missile boats down to the southeast took 4 before it eventually sank. But if it does require more missiles, I mean, I'm comfortably outside of return fire range, so I can use more missiles. We'll see what one more does. It's only going to take a couple of seconds. I'd like to know what that radar contact is there, though, or those 2 radar contacts. But let's see what happens with this missile. Gotcha. Oh, what is that? It's been sunk. Is that... Oh, the camera's all over the place. Is that a minesweeper? I don't actually know what that is. Either way, it's dead and it's no longer a problem. So that leaves 2 unidentified but slow-moving contacts about 5-6 kilometers away. There's 2 very, very slow-moving contacts leaving the port and heading north, which are almost certainly dows or fishing boats. And the 2 stationary contacts in the bay, which are very likely to be merchantmen at anchor. So, I think I'm going to divert the northern column to investigate the 2 closest contacts. I don't know an awful lot about them. I've just got their radar cross-section. They're not transmitting any kind of radars of their own. You would think that if they were military, given what's just happened, they would have their radars on, and they don't. So they're either not military, or they're being very, very sneaky. The thing is, if they are missile boats, they're going to want to turn their radars on to get target locks and fire the missiles. So I'm inclined to believe that they are in fact neutral. Cargo transports, oil tankers, maybe fishermen. But I need to find out. So we're going to accelerate time and see what the lead ship in the northern element can find. Since they're refusing to help us out by doing anything that we can detect on ESM to classify them, we're just going to have to close in and get a visual ID. And we're going to have to get very close for that because, well, it's dark, the sun hasn't come up yet, which obviously limits visual range. So what do I know about them? Other than the size of their radar return, and they are using navigation radar, but, well, everybody has navigation radar, that doesn't mean they're military. Their speed would indicate that they are not. I'm just going to have to get close enough to see them. Which means I'm going to have to get very, very close indeed. I'm not sure I like this. I mean, you can see the lights of the city from here, that's how close we are. Oh, they're hostile. Well, one of them is, which probably means the other one is. What did he just do to classify himself as hostile? He turned his surface search radar on. That's a Kamar-class missile boat. He's just screwed up. He left it way too late to turn his radar on, because he is now too close to fire off an SSN-2. It has a minimum engagement range. I mean, that works both ways. He's also too close for the lead ship in the element to engage him with his own Gabriels, so he's going to have to engage him with guns. But the rear ship in the element might be just far enough away. Oh shit. Yes, that looks nasty. The Comar's engaging the lead ship in the northern element with its 25mm gun, but the lead ship in the northern element is engaging it right back with its equally rapid-firing 40mm gun. The ships to the south, they've got spare missiles that can certainly afford to fire off a couple in... Yep, they're now both classified as hostile, so they can afford to fire off a couple in support of the lead ship to the north, who is taking a bit of a beating. But his 40mm is banging away there. He's given as good as... Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think these guys are coming off worse. It looks like the one in front was actually taking 25mm fire from his comrade to the rear. Well, that's one down. And that was the 40mm from this fella here. The Gabriels haven't actually gotten there yet. I mean, he's taken a beating and he's on fire. I mean, remember, these are not big ships. Even the 25mm cannon is going to do serious damage if it gets to score enough hits. Oh, well, yeah, if it gets to score enough hits. Because those guys were even smaller, and the lead Sayar was firing back with 40mm. He's looking in a pretty bad way, though. Let's have a look at damage control. If I can remember how to do it. There it is. Well, his weapons are still working. Well, most of them are. He's lost one Gabriel launcher, but his engine's still working. He hasn't slowed down. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he'll be fine. I'm sure the damage control teams can get that under control without too many problems. Well, we are very, very close to the shore now. And, yeah, we've just visually ID'd. Oh, that's a Greek merchant ship. The other one anchored up next to it, that's actually a Japanese fishing boat. This is actually a nod to what happened during the battle, because the only things that the Syrians hit were from missiles launched from missile boats that were actually tied up in the harbour. And the only things that they hit were a Greek and Japanese neutral vessels at anchor out in the bay, and that's what those were. This land-based radar has just turned itself off. I was going to try to close in and finish it off with guns, but it clearly knows what's good for it. It's turned its radar off to stay hidden. And it's right in the middle of the city anyway, so it's probably best that it has, because, I mean, 40mm gunfire might cause some collateral damage. The only thing that remains to do is identify these two tracks up to the north, who are still only doing 4 knots and are almost certainly just dows or something like that. I don't want to go all wild west on them, though. I mean, they're only doing 4 knots, I'm doing 32, so it doesn't take me long to catch up and actually see what they are. The lead ship in the northern force has gotten the damage under control and is now basically fine, and sure enough, that's a dow. Which explains why it's only doing 4 knots and it doesn't have any radar. Which probably means the other one's a dow too. But we're just going to make sure. It shouldn't take too long. We're basically on top of them. And, yep, also a neutral vessel. That's another dow. So, that's it, the Battle of Latakia. There are no further contacts. I mean, there are plenty of contacts, but none of them are hostile. So we're going to call that one a win. Historically, the Israelis didn't lose a single ship. Today they did. But considering the number of SSN-2s that got fired at us, I think only losing one was actually a good result. And of course, without the use of electronic countermeasures, that would have been an awful lot worse. And that's one of the things that this battle was actually quite famous for, because it was the first surface action in history to feature extensive use of electronic countermeasures. And I hope today's video has given you some appreciation of just how important electronic warfare actually is in modern naval combat. It's not all about the missiles. Anyway, hope you learned something, hope you all enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.